Hey everyone, I'm Lyle Burks with the Viking Speaks. And this is the 48 Laws of Power. Hey everyone, it's Lyle Burks with the Viking Speaks. Welcome back to day 44 of the 90-day video challenge. Today we have 48 Laws of Power, Law 9. Win through your actions, never through your argument. Any momentary triumph you think you've gained through argument is really pirate victory. The resentment and ill will you stir up is stronger and lasts longer than any momentary change of opinion. It is much more powerful to get others to agree with you through your actions without saying a word. Demonstrate, not explicate. So in this chapter, they discuss both the transgressions and the observance of the law. The transgression in Roman times, there was a particular emperor who was busy waging war, and he set away for a battering ram. He wanted to take down the city gates of a particular castle or something. Either way, he wanted to take down the wall of the city gates. Well, as he was passing through the ship's harbor, he saw a few masts that he think would do the job perfectly. He saw two in particular, and there was a larger and a smaller. So he sent away some of his soldiers and said, "Bring me the larger of the two." So when the soldiers got there, they told the engineer, "This is what we need. This is what our master wants. We need this immediately." The engineer argued and said, "No, the smaller of the two, this would be perfect for exactly what you need. You'll be able to get more speed and therefore deliver more force." And though he was scientifically correct, and he believed that while science is neutral, reason is absolute, he didn't understand that the guy who sent them could have cared less. And by denying him what he asked for, he was insulting his intelligence and his leadership. So he continued to argue. And finally, at the end of the day, the soldiers were like, "Look, man, you don't know who you're dealing with. Just give us the big one. Doesn't matter if you're right. If he doesn't like this, he'll send for the other one. Just do what he asks." So the engineer says, "Fine, sure, whatever." And the next morning, he's supposed to send it over to the leader. He goes back that night, and eventually he finds himself arguing again, this time with himself, as why would anybody want an inferior device? I'm going to show them. I'm going to send the smaller one and prove to him. And once he gets there, he'll thank me and I'll be rewarded. Well, the smaller of the two masts arrives at the city gates. The leadership, when he sees it, he asks, "What is this?" Infuriated, the soldiers explained what happened. And told him about the engineer, told him about how argumentative he was, and how he insisted. So, excuse me, he sends away for the engineer, brings him over right away. And so the engineer, when he arrives, he explains exactly what he told the soldiers, how it was an inferior device to use the larger because the smaller one could gather more speed and therefore would deliver more force and would serve his purpose better, and he would be much more pleased. So, because of his insult and his refusal to admit and just allow the emperor to find out that the larger of the two wouldn't have done the job right on his own and come seek his advice out, he had him stripped naked, stoned, and then beat to death. Yeah, not a really good ending there for that guy. So, alternatively, if you go to, I believe it was the year 1502, there was a very large piece of marble that had been commissioned for a statue creation in a famous church. I want to say in Italy, if I'm not mistaken, Italy or France. the sculptor who originally worked on it was apparently not so good and really didn't have a whole lot of experience with it. So when he got to working, he eventually bored a hole right in the middle of this thing. And everybody around thought it was just ruined. The guy who bought it was pissed. He thought there's no way the piece could be salvaged, and he just had it covered and put in the corner of the collecting dust. So a few friends of Michelangelo's heard about it. They knew the guy who owned it, and they told Michelangelo about it. So he packed up, he went on a trip and went and checked out this piece. And after he had a while to evaluate it and everything, he came up with an idea. And he told him, look, I would have to change his perspective. Oh no. Stupid yawning. I would have changed the perspective, but I think I can make this work. So he says, look, the guy didn't agree with it. He's like, whatever, you do what you want. I don't think it's salvageable. Go for it. You're wasting your time. So Michelangelo gets to work, and he eventually needs to create David from the story of David and Goliath with a slingshot. So he gets to carving, and a few weeks later, he finishes the piece, and the owner comes up, check it out. Now, he does consider himself a bit of a connoisseur of fine art. So when he gets there, he's standing just right below the nose. Now, mind you, this is big. You're talking like 10, 15 foot. And to him, the nose looks wrong because he's at a different angle. Michelangelo understood this. He understood perspective was important with something like this. So he had the fellow follow him up on the scaffolding. And as he was going, he grabbed his chisel and hammer and a little bit of that marble dust and speck from his previous carving. And he had the guy stand on the scaffolding, and as Michelangelo went up further and got closer to the piece, and he acted like he was chiseling away on the nose, he sprinkled a little bit of that dust on the ground. He did this for a few minutes and made it appear as if he was changing anything, knowing the whole time that he never did. And then as he stood back, he asked for him to look again. The man said it had come to life, and he was brilliant. Michelangelo never changed a thing. He never said anything either. He allowed his actions to speak for him. He knew he'd already created perfection, and in arguing that would just prove that he was an arrogant ass, and that he felt he was superior to the other man, in which case that would cost him not only his commission, but his reputation. So rather than cost himself those things, he let his work speak for him. So, I think with this one, it's really important to take this to heart, especially nowadays. If you think about social media, and you think about the negative connotations that come along with certain platforms. Facebook, for instance, seems to constantly be known for the place for people to go argue and share their opinions. Instagram is a nice place to show little tidbits of your life with all these wondrous filters. Snapchat has its own features, nice stories and reels, funny filters for everybody to have a good time. Tumblr and Reddit and all, they all have their purpose. They all serve some sort of purpose, right? But what I noticed over the years is you can get on there and you can argue and argue and argue. It doesn't matter how many facts you throw out there. The other person will never yield. 90% of the time. That person, that other man, that other woman, they'll never believe they're wrong. So it's important to, in today's society, remember that we're real. What you see out there online, that's only 3% of real life. You see highlights. So step outside of the ones and zeros. Let your actions speak for you. If people question what you're doing, speak less, do more. And at the end of the day, when those who criticized you and ridiculed you prior to, as you were coming up, stand back in amazement as you've finished your task and you achieved that goal that you said you were going to or in the beginning and then disappeared for. all the hard work, all your discipline, all your action will do all the speaking for you. All you have to do is smile and say, ready for me to show you how to do it? That's all I got for tonight, y'all. Talk to you tomorrow. Much love. Back it out.